Welcome everyone to Coin New Yen Review channel. Before we dive into today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can discover us. Enjoy the show. I found myself inhabiting the body of immortal venerable Changzi's disciple, yet all I longed for was to return home. The system informed me that death within a month would send me back. I bought poison pills and frantically consumed 30 of them, only to find my inner strength surging wildly. The system urged me not to seek death as immortal venerable Changzi's disciple. It claimed this was a blessing countless others would beg for. I glanced at my arm, where demonic markings were concealed by my spiritual energy. I sneered, asking if He'd want this so-called blessing. I resolved to die within a day. I sought out the senior sister from the neighboring wine sect. According to the system, he was a villain, the utterly vicious kind. Upon meeting him, I began to provoke him. Brandishing a wooden sword, I shouted to spar with him. The senior sister glanced at my unsteady grip on the sword. She deemed me utterly incompetent. He leapt at me with a gaze reserved for fools. Then, with pity in his eyes, he glanced at me and simply walked away. The next day, I ventured alone into a secret realm. The system warned that this ancient realm was fraught with peril. Once entered, survival was deemed impossible. I stepped inside without hesitation. I successfully slew 99 Tenspero great reef beasts, 1,000 blood falcons stacked high, and captured 3 dragons from the poison scorpion hall. I even brought back several priceless spiritual herbs. On the third day, one purchased a barrel of pills. According to the system, these were rare and coveted across the entire cultivation world. Poison pills no less. 1 cauldron soul-devouring pill would ruin the meridians to wood. Shatter the 5 organs, 3 would ascend to heaven for wood. Annihilate the soul entirely. I devoured 30 in a frenzy. 10 before meals, 10 during meals, 10 after meals. Yet after consuming them, my cultivation broke through 3 tiers, reaching the perfect stage of the golden core. I felt the abundant spiritual energy coursing through my body. My heart sank into despair. The system let out an awkward laugh. It suggested I abandon my quest for death. Why bother when I transmigrated as the chief disciple of immortal venerable Changzi? This was a fortune others could only dream of. With practice, any secret manual could lead to sainthood. How exhilarating the pinnacle of life itself. I firmly refused, pointing to the demonic markings on my arm, barely concealed by my spiritual energy. I sneered, asking if He'd take this fortune if offered. Indeed, I wasn't just an unlucky transmigrator. I was also an undercover agent sent by the demon clan. The original host was a peculiar figure, cultivating both righteous and demonic paths simultaneously, miraculously avoiding self-destruction. Truly prime material for an undercover operative. I had no idea what the demon lord's goal was, but my sole aim was clear: to die and return within a month. Regrettably, every method I tried to end my life failed. It wasn't until 10 days had passed that I finally uncovered the issue. The system admitted it was a novice protection period, designed to prevent newbies from killing themselves too soon, enforced for a full month. A whole month? The system, sensing trouble, scrambled to rectify, begging me not to report it. It confessed the truth. Only someone at the 7th stage of great completion could kill me now. Yet across the entire Shangxing continent, only 3 had reached that level: Demon Lord Chang'eng, Demon Emperor Kang Liu, and Immortal Venerable Changzi. Well, what a balanced distribution of power. A perfect tripod of forces, wasn't it? I lowered my head, pondering whose hands would bring me the least painful to minimize my suffering. The Demon Lord's methods were brutally savage. The Demon Emperor's whereabouts were unknown. Immortal Venerable, my nominal master, was in seclusion. The system calmly analyzed, urging me not to rush. It promised to arrange encounters with them. I sneered, doubting I'd meet them before the month's end. Would it take its own life in apology if I didn't? The system, flustered, stammered that it wasn't impossible. Tomorrow it would ensure Changzi emerged from seclusion. I knew it. I could trust the system to handle things. That very night, Changzi broke through his realm, drawing down 99 bolts of heavenly lightning, which promptly blasted my roof to pieces. I wasn't the least bit surprised. Truly, I sat on the neighboring wine sect's senior sister's roof, waiting for the lightning to finish its work. My mindset was almost serene. The system boasted to me about its fine work. I nodded, grinding my teeth, calling it splendid. It grew even smugger, saying I hadn't expected it. It had connections in the heavens, didn't it? I let out a soft chuckle. Then in one swift move, I sealed it within the jade pendant in my hand. Infusing all my spiritual energy, I hurled it into Changzi's tribulation lightning, to the place where it struck. Damn it, I despised fools in this lifetime. Good news, Immortal Venerable survived his tribulation. Bad news, I became his life-saving benefactor. They say at the critical moment, a divine artifact descended to shield him. Immortal Venerable was deeply moved. He wished to meet the owner of this artifact. Damn it, I went into hiding, refusing to admit the jade pendant was mine. But Immortal Venerable lived up to his title. He successfully traced the pendant's owner. That is me. The senior sister stood beside him, pointing at me, saying, Immortal Venerable, it's him. This jade pendant is a supreme magical artifact. No mistake. Changzi was truly touched. He solemnly returned the pendant to me, calling me his dear disciple, saying I had a kind heart. Then with great generosity, he handed me a cultivation manual. What use does a man doomed to die have for such a manual? I even began to suspect. Was he here to repay kindness or exact revenge? The system wailed, calling me young master, accusing me of lacking martial virtue. That bolt of lightning nearly sent it back to oblivion. Was I deliberate or careless? Of course it was deliberately careless. Did it think otherwise? Sigh. Why didn't such a mighty lightning bolt take it away? Changzi successfully crossed his tribulation. The entire sect celebrated for him. The sect leader drank a cup of wine. Seated at the head, he sighed about the past, then finally revealed his true intentions. Stroking his beard, he leisurely remarked about fine wine, noting that among sect leaders, Changzi had the fewest disciples. Since had emerged from seclusion, why not take a few more to pass on his legacy? I laughed, thinking passing on a legacy was a pretense. Stealing cultivation secrets was the real goal. Changzi smiled as well. Perhaps his smile was too sharp. The sect leader trembled slightly. Changzi deliberately released waves of spiritual pressure, making no effort to hide his displeasure. Had the sect leader forgotten, he asked, that Changzi would only take one disciple in his lifetime? I was standing aside, enjoying the drama, but hearing this, I was utterly stunned. What did he mean? All this time, Immortal Venerable Changzi had only me as his disciple. So in this vast sect, it was just the two of us living here. That didn't seem right, I remarked. No wonder I couldn't find anyone to spar with on my outings. No wonder the senior sister from the wine sect always looked at me with such pity in his eyes. I was a lone soul without even junior brothers or sisters, a solitary figure. On the other side, the other sect leaders were stunned. Realizing this, they immediately urged Changzi in unison. In short, take another disciple. Take another. Take another. Your eldest disciple is so disrespectful. Why not take another disciple? My ears were practically calloused from hearing it, and I was standing right there. They treated me like I was invisible. I looked up, noticing a cloud of frustration on Changzi's brow. Anyone could see he was in a foul mood, but no one cared to consider his feelings. They had the air of pressuring him until he took more disciples. It wasn't surprising they were so fervent. Through the system's brief explanation, I roughly understood the setup of this cultivation world's strongest force. He was a genius, the kind whose mere saliva could purify. So absurdly talented that in such a grand sect, not one person believed in his natural gifts. They all thought Changzi either practiced forbidden arts or was hiding some treasure he hadn't shared with the sect leader or the wine sect leader. So they used taking disciples as an excuse to steal his techniques. Wasn't the hall now filled with beautiful and talented outer disciples? Even a few refined male disciples were present. How outrageous this crowd! They really dared to dream, seeing Changzi cornered by the crowd. In this moment, isolated and helpless, he wasn't pitiable at all, but still such a pleasing beauty. Did tug at the heartstrings. Pity aside though, I hadn't forgotten my main goal. Under everyone's gaze, I let out 3 arrogant laughs. Standing up, I declared it was simple. if the sect leader wouldn't take disciples. Wed just replaced the sect leader. The hall fell silent, as if someone had pressed pause. All eyes turned to me in shock. Such rebellious words had been spoken. Changzi was surely already planning my assassination. I turned confidently, only to see Changzi's brow relax, his gaze toward me carrying approval. I was dumbfounded. What was that expectant expression supposed to mean? Changzi's lips curved into a smile, his face radiating delight. He rose from his seat. The crowd looked at me, his disciple, then at the immortal venerable himself, and were utterly baffled. The sect leader panicked. He lunged toward Changzi, clinging to him desperately. Visibly flustered, he spoke. No disciples, no disciples. I never meant he had to share his secrets or face expulsion from the sect. The wine sect leader trembled. The sect leader, sweating profusely, played dumb. He gritted his teeth, begging Changzi to let him explain. He swore he had no such intentions. I put my hands on my hips, asking why they were standing there. Why not hurry and toss the immortal venerable out? I wasn't exactly chased out by the sect leader. To be precise, he persuaded me to leave with kind words. He even promised me had never again forced Changzi to take disciples. What misunderstanding did they have about me? I sighed to the heavens. Another day without death. The wine brewed by the junior sister in the plate was delicious. I accidentally drank too much, stumbling as I walked. He said he secretly roasted a rabbit from the back mountain and offered me a leg. Having fasted for days, I was moved to tears. I couldn't help pouring out my woes to him, only to drink too much again. Before leaving, the junior sister said I repaid kindness with enmity. He was young, unaware of the pains of cultivation. On my way back, the demonic markings on my wrist suddenly began to emit black mist. I was utterly horrified. Thankfully, it didn't happen in front of the junior sister, or it wouldn't just be a matter of being called ungrateful. He might have fainted on the spot. My first thought was, what the hell? The demonic markings were becoming uncontrollable. My second thought was that damn system. I wanted to drag it out and kick it senseless, press its head down and stomp on it, smash its skull with a punch, and finish with 3 slaps. I sobered up completely, leaning against a tree. I stared blankly. Fine, I admit my resentment was heavier than a ghost's. I truly wanted to die, but not a death filled with torment. This was too cruel. That wretched system. This cursed cultivation. Halfway through my rant, a man's voice emerged from the markings. It startled me. The system hurriedly reassured me not to panic, saying it was just standard communication for an undercover agent. I realized this must be my big boss. I quickly adjusted my attitude to one of respect, listening carefully to the voice on the other side. It was Demon Lord Xiang'eng, his voice deliberately lowered, carrying an ambiguous tone, yet his words were bloodthirsty and brutal. It had been 10 days. He asked if there was progress on murdering Changzi. Murdering Changzi. I excitedly rubbed my hands. After 10 days, the Demon Lord finally remembered. There was still an undercover demon in the cultivation world. I was deeply moved. Though I hadn't accomplished his task, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I thought, why should I feel guilty? I wasn't the original host. Besides, what grudge did the Demon Lord and the original host have, assigning such an impossible task? Wasn't it clearly sending him to his death? So I straightened my back. With full confidence, I boldly declared, "Who the hell are you? You think you can order me around? As if killing an immortal venerable is easy. If you're so capable, do it yourself. If you can't, don't yap about it." After my tirade, the other side fell eerily silent. I took a sip of water, feeling I hadn't cursed enough. I pressed on with biting sarcasm. "Why don't you do it yourself? Too scared, huh? No way, no way. The mighty Demon Lord is this useless." The man's breathing grew heavy. Still silent, oh. He was definitely fuming. I pressed on, not convinced. "Come to the mass graveyard for a fight." After saying this, I swiftly cut off the connection. No chance for him to curse back. I smirked wickedly. I'd heard the Demon Lord was hot-tempered. I refused to believe I'd survive this time. Yet I failed again. Before the mass graveyard, winds howled. Ghostly wails filled the air. On this moonless, stormy night, perfect for murder and mayhem, The demon lord stood before me, crying like a child. He said this was his family's ancestral grave. He pleaded if I was angry and wanted to fight, could I not dig up his family's graves? I looked at him utterly speechless, my hair ruffled by the wind. The demon lord kept crying. I opened my mouth, desperately wanting to beg him to stop crying. This was too absurd. The demon lord teary-eyed glanced at me and spoke to me. He slapped his forehead. As if struck by realization, he explained. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill Changzi himself, but the Wushan formation at Tianyuan Peak was too formidable. He couldn't even get in. Otherwise, had have killed him 10,000 times already. He looked utterly confident. I waved my hand lifelessly, saying fine. I understood enough already. So in the end, it came down to being too weak. His strength just wasn't enough. The demon lord opened his mouth, then stopped. Stopped, then tried again. But in the end, he couldn't find a single retort. I couldn't find a single word to defend myself. His face fell and he turned to leave in defeat. I felt utterly helpless. As one of the three who could kill me, the demon lord turned out to be a fool. I couldn't believe I had such a dim-witted boss, and it shamed me. Never had I imagined a day would come when I'd be trapped, unable to find death's door. I was heartbroken. So I swallowed another handful of 9 cauldron soul-devouring pills. As expected, vast waves of spiritual energy gathered in my dantian. In mere moments, I was on the verge of breaking through. Roaring heavenly thunder appeared above my head. The system was thrilled. It exclaimed that I'd finally started cultivating, but suggested we avoid such reckless risks next time. I was equally excited. I told it to save its breath. My mood hadn't been great lately. Today, I'd use it to toy with the lightning tribulation. It needed to brace itself. After a bout of cursing, the system was struck by lightning, scorched inside and out. While my cultivation advanced yet another step. Now within the sect, I could even rival the other sect leaders. Yet the system clung to life barely. It warned that raw cultivation wasn't enough. I needed real combat experience. I grabbed more poison pills, eager to try again. The system panicked, finally giving up on urging me to cultivate. Life without a phone was simply unbearable. After sneaking down the mountain for food and fun, I also bought a stack of illustrated books. From pure to forbidden, even beastly tales, they had it all. Incredibly diverse, complete with exquisite illustrations. I couldn't help but drool, they were perfect. Sadly, many of these were banned by sect rules, forbidden to read, with unknown punishments for breaking the rule. The sect leader claimed such vulgar things would hinder cultivation. I thought the sect leader was just perverse. Banning illustrated books was the cruelest torture in the cultivation world. Pitifully, I was just a lowly junior, the chief disciple under Immortal Venerable Changzi. Even with my advanced cultivation, I could only silently comply, with no room to protest. What a bitter life! After much thought, I devised a plan to deceive the heavens. As dusk fell and the sky darkened, a shadowy figure sneaked into the library pavilion. The library was the sect's sacred ground, housing countless secret manuals, where disciples studied cultivation. But because it contained many forbidden arts, only sect leaders and their chief disciples held the keys. By day, disciples could only access the first floor. The second floor was strictly off limits. But I was different. I was an undercover agent. An undercover agent had to act the part. So I carried my stack of illustrated books, ready to pull off something big. I kicked open the dusty gate and headed straight for the second floor. I randomly grabbed a thick cultivation manual, then tore off its cover, stuffing my forbidden books inside. Looking at each one, now disguised as a proper manual, I nodded with satisfaction. It was perfect. My junior brothers and sisters would thank their father, though by then I'd likely be back in my world, hugging my phone, ogling handsome men. I tossed all the real manuals into a corner of my storage ring. Clutching my fake manuals, I prepared to slip away. But as I left, I encountered someone I never expected. It was the sect leader, his back to me, unaware of my presence. At that moment, gone was his usual refined, immortal demeanor. His expression was downright terrifying. His eyes tightly shut, He rapidly chanted incantations. Suddenly his eyes snapped open, revealing a deep ghostly black, like a malevolent spirit. I froze. This state was exactly like the signs of falling into demonic obsession. But what did it matter to a transmigrator like me? I prepared to slip past the sect leader and leave. But out of the corner of my eye I saw something. A stream of blood gushed from him. Something was off. As expected, the blood flowed more and more, pulling together, as if it had eyes of its own. After spilling onto the ground, it formed an intricate formation. I was horrified. Quickly slapping an invisibility talisman on my I quietly observed for a while. The more I looked, the more familiar it seemed. I recalled the name of this formation, the sixth scroll of the Crimson Soul Suppression, an utterly malevolent forbidden art. So wicked even demons would shudder. Truly a demonic technique. Once trapped in this formation, all vitality would be drained. Not even the soul would be spared. In return, the formation's master would gain endless power, absorbing the victim's cultivation and even enhancing their soul. I knew this was a secret art known only to the demon clan, and only they could use it. Those who couldn't break it would lose their sanity over time, becoming neither human nor ghost. But the sect leader was clearly a cultivator. How could he know such a forbidden art? How did I even know this? A sharp pain stabbed through my mind, and I passed out. When I woke again, the sect leader was gone. The bloodstained floor was pristine, even cleaner than before. Everything from last night felt like a dream. I pushed aside the doubts in my mind and decided to seek out Immortal Venerable Changzi. But upon seeing him, I completely forgot about the incident. He didn't seem like an Immortal Venerable at all, more like a seductive male demon, usually cold and aloof, sparing no expressions for others, yet somehow exuding a strange allure. Like he'd look beautiful even when crying. I quickly stopped my wild thoughts and kicked open the door to his chambers. The front hall was empty, so I made my way to the rear hall with ease. The rear hall was vast, but now it was filled with misty steam, a white haze everywhere. Waves of heat rolled toward me. In a flash of realization, I understood something awkward. Immortal Venerable Changzi was bathing. I was extremely nervous, swallowing hard. Why did this scene feel so familiar? As if it had happened before. It shouldn't have. I wasn't some pervert. This was entirely an accident. I repented for my impure thoughts. But before I could think further, Changzi rose from the pool, approaching me step by step, getting closer and closer. The system suddenly sprang to life. It screamed at me to leave. What was I waiting for? I stood rooted to the spot. Why should I leave? I had to leave. I couldn't be a lecher, so I tried to, but my gaze fell on Changzi again. I swallowed hard once more. His beauty leaned against the mountain, half concealed, revealing a broad expanse of his chest, and even a glimpse of his abs. My feet were glued to the ground. Tears welled up at the corners of my mouth. Then, Changzi's voice laced with suppressed anger reached me. He accused me of sneaking in to watch him bathe. His tone was shocked, bewildered with a hint of disbelief. I retorted that this wasn't sneaking. I hadn't even used an invisibility talisman. It was an open and honest look. Changzi's face flushed red. I felt a pang of guilt and tried to explain, but accidentally blurted out that he was quite a sight. I begged him to let me explain. It truly wasn't intentional, but he was furious. He growled at me to stop staring, but I gave up resisting. My eyes fixed unwaveringly on him. The tips of Changzi's ears turned completely red. He turned his head, softly scolding me for being shameless, ordering me to leave. I decided to stay right there. With that thought, I waved at him dismissively and sat lightly by the pool's edge, telling him to keep bathing as I loved watching my wicked disciple. The system gasped, utterly humiliated. Having a host like me was the greatest shame of its existence. I showed no remorse, determined to bring disgrace to 7 generations of ancestors. Surely now Changzi would kill me. But before that, feasting my eyes was only fair right. I was overthinking again. Immortal Venerable Changzi merely kicked me out, his cheeks flushed with color, like a virtuous man who'd been teased. His expression was deeply unnatural. He even sealed the entire hall with a barrier, specifically to keep me out. How petty! The system sighed to the heavens saying I was done for. I'd probably never get my hands on a cultivation manual now. I also sighed to the heavens lamenting my fate. How was I supposed to die and return now? Courting death was no easy task. I kept hitting walls every day. Though I was still alive, my spirit had already died thoroughly, leaving my master's chambers. I swaggered straight to the demon palace. The moment the demon lord saw me, he shrank back. Like a wrong little wife, he asked why I'd come again. I sighed, yanked him off his throne, and sat down myself praising his audacity to infiltrate the immortal sect as a disciple. In just 1 month, he claimed I'd fallen deeply for Changzi. His voice, initially full of rage, took on a hint of grievance. Good grief me smitten with Changzi. How was I unaware of this? That wasn't important. I grabbed his collar, glaring at him to stop dawdling. I'd come today to seek death. The demon lord was shocked. He looked up refusing, shaking me saying no one could die but me. I gripped his collar tightly, yelling if he dared disobey me. His clothes were a mess from my tugging, his collar even slightly undone. Our eyes met, both of us a bit awkward. At that moment, one of the demon lord's subordinates rushed in panic, saying immortal venerable Changzi had stormed in. Hearing this, the demon lord was furious. He roared, asking what Changzi was doing here. Before his words faded, Changzi's voice drifted in calm and eerie. He asked if his dear disciple had gotten lost here. As his master, couldn't he come check? The demon lord was on the verge of collapse. He told Changzi not to push too far. Did he think the demon palace was his home? A place to come and go as he pleased? As the two titans prepared to clash, I panicked, my mind racing. I stepped forward, standing in front of Xiangyang. I told my master he wouldn't want the sect leader to know had come to the demon palace. Changzi's face darkened further. He dragged me out. Somewhat angry, he said if I couldn't see him, I ran to the demon lord. I knew had misunderstood something, but I had no intention of explaining. So I raised my head, asking what of it. If he was upset, why not just kill me? Changzi paused, his expression softening. He asked if the cultivation world was so repulsive to me. I didn't answer. Truth be told, after these 20-odd days, I didn't entirely hate the cultivation world. Of course, it'd be better with handsome men around. The system nagged in my ear to stay. Stay, it urged. I covered my ears, huffing that I was repulsed. Joking aside, what if I regretted staying later? Changzi sighed, exasperated. He dragged me all the way back to Tianyuan Hall. Before leaving, I saw Xiangyang's furious expression, his veins bulging, his eyes bloodshot. I marveled, now that's more like a demon lord. The system suddenly spoke, its usual playful tone gone, its voice serious. Didn't I want to know why Changzi and Xiangyang treated me specially? I froze, dismissing the thought. I just wanted to go home. I was a shameless lecher. I missed the pretty boys on my phone. The system sighed. Somewhat it told me to get the cultivation manual and master it. Once I reached the great completion stage, it would go home with me. Really, truly. I pulled out a yellow booklet. Was this the thing? It gasped, asking where I got it. When I was first struck by lightning, Changzi had forced it on me as thanks. Who'd have thought? It was all thanks to the system's efforts. Recently, strange things happened in the sect. First, someone saw Changzi's only disciple actually training daily at the back mountain. Second, Changzi himself went to personally guide him every day. What a spectacle! Time flew by. I was on the verge of breaking through again. The system shared good news. A heavenly phenomenon had appeared, foretelling the rise of a demonic cultivator. Within 100 miles, there was bound to be an opportunity countless others would crave. It urged me to seize it. I wasn't here to cultivate, why bother? But since the system was somewhat useful, this time I decided to spare it. The system would face the lightning tribulation itself. Changzi prepared to personally guard me. I was deeply touched, and for once, felt a twinge of reluctance. I approached Changzi and confessed that I was an undercover agent for the demon clan. The crowd gasped, looking at me confused. not even reaching for their swords. I revealed the demonic markings on my wrist. Puzzled, I asked, "Didn't they hear me say I was a demon clan spy?" Changzi remained expressionless. The disciples below began making excuses for me. It had to be fate. What spy admits they're a spy? The senior sister said I was genuinely kind. She felt that even if I was sent by the demon clan, a good demon wasn't unacceptable. I couldn't bring myself to laugh. But then Changzi suddenly spoke. He pointed out that no one minded, so I should stay. In the end, the sect leader stepped forward, saying rules couldn't be broken. Otherwise, if every demon followed suit, wouldn't it cause chaos? I nodded vigorously, but Changzi flatly refused. He let out a cold sneer. With absolute dominance, he declared that I was his disciple. How I fared was none of their concern, be it the demon clan or the monster clan. I'd like to see who dared touch me. Changzi's bold maneuver left the crowd speechless. Originally failing to die this time should have left me heartbroken. Yet at this moment, I realized I only felt relief and even a touch of joy. But to return home, I had to find another way to court death. Perhaps seeing how hard I tried, the system took pity on me and finally revealed something significant. In this world, there existed a dark abyss where I might find what I needed. This so-called dark abyss was formed during the Great War of Immortals, Demons, and Monsters, when the starry river fell silent, born from the ashes of destruction, crafted by a demon subdued at the abyss edge, whose artifact, the soul-destroying Great Sorner, vanished in that very war. Its demonic notes pierced the ears. Lightly, it drove one mad heavily. It reduced bones to ash, leaving fields in ruin. Over time, legend spoke of the Swona's wail, of ghosts crying and immortals battling. Though that demon had long perished, the dark abyss remained a place no one dared approach. As I listened, my eyes lit up. Such a powerful treasure existed. What a waste it would be not to use it for my death. I cursed the system for not telling me sooner. I packed my things and eagerly set off. A quarter of an hour later, I stared at the cliff before me, shrouded in immortal mist, uncertainly asking if the cultivation world always named such lush verdant places dark abyss. The system was stunned, but it was quick to deflect. After so many years, wasn't some change to be expected? Fine, trying, it wouldn't hurt. I jumped down, half doubting. At the cliff's base, a Serna hung suspended. I couldn't help but notice it. It was far too conspicuous. Its body glowed with golden light, as if begging to be seen. The system warned that the Serna chose its master, without a plan to subdue it. I shouldn't touch it carelessly. 1 blow would cripple, 2 would claim light, 3 would turn me to ash. I trusted the system's confidence in me. I felt gratified, but it was about to be disappointed. Before its words faded, I grabbed the radiant golden Serna. Its light dissipated, and it lay obediently in my palm. This was the soul-destroying Great Serna. The Serna seemed to sense me, twisting slightly in my hand. Truly soul-destroying. I stood at the cliff's base, Serna in hand. In the system's despairing cries, I played a rousing rendition of the Locust Fragrance tune. The first note shattered rocks for miles, the second withered trees and grass, the third sent birds and beasts fleeing in panic as I played with fervor. The system couldn't take it. It shouted that it was unbearable, begging me to stop. I ignored it completely. When the tune ended, it spoke weakly, saying I could seek my own death. But what about it? Was its life not a life? I sighed, comforting it that for me to return home soon, it should endure a little longer. So why was I still sitting here? After being duped by the system countless times, I'd grown used to it. The fact that I couldn't die no matter what. In anger, I grabbed a fish that leapt from the water in a frenzy and pulled a pot from my storage ring. Under the system's shocked gaze, I produced 2 barbecue racks and a jug of wine. I savagely bit into the fish, suggesting I could explain for it. Perhaps the Serna was a fake, its power diminished, now just a useless instrument. Before the system could respond, the Serna swallowed me was absurd. My heart leapt with joy. This Serna had potential. This time I'd finally die. Not in vain for playing so long. I closed my eyes peacefully. A sobbing voice reached my ears, asking why its master sought death. I was stunned. The voice continue edit was the Serna. It asked in distress if it had angered its master. Surely even its master found it unbearable now. But master, it had obtained a talisman, infused with the power of the dark abyss, to offer to me, though it only worked against formidable foes, drawing on their strength to unleash its full power. Otherwise it was useless. I tried to explain. I wasn't its master. I begged for a chance to die. But the Serna wouldn't listen. It released me, tossed me a talisman, then shrank and ignored me. Sulking, I felt powerless. Holding the soul-destroying Great Serna, I threatened the system that if I failed my mission, it should just erase me, so I could go home. The system wailed like a banshee, saying it had just received orders from above. If the host failed the mission, it couldn't erase me immediately. The exact consequences were unknown. I gritted my teeth. Fine, I'd find another way. I returned to my residence dejected. That night an uninvited guest arrived at the sect. The sect leader visiting so late meant trouble. Perhaps had come to kill me. I eyed him coldly, waiting for him to speak, but he had no regard for honor. Without a word of nonsense, with a single command, a horde of humanoid puppets appeared, surrounding me completely. Damn, I'd been careless. More forbidden arts. No time to wonder why the sect leader knew so many. I was already thrown by the puppets to the mass graveyard, landing hard. Damn it, the sect leader was targeting me. Blood clouds churned in the sky. Endless waves of bloodlust swirled around. Towering peaks rose from the endless sea valley. Mountains roared past. I stared at the sect leader before me. His eyes clouded, his expression grim and hateful. The system shrieked that he was the demonic sect leader. Clearly had activated the formation. In just a few days, had reached the edge of demonic obsession. I shook my head, sighing that twisted minds never ended well. The Crimson Soul Suppression formation kept all living things at bay, unless the caster willingly suffered the formation's backlash. Could it be stopped? I sat within the formation, not daring to use a shred of spiritual energy. The system was frantic, saying it was over. Even Changzi couldn't save me now. It hadn't detected before that he was also at the tribulation stage, and with such forbidden arts, unless there was a specific counter, he was impossible to kill. I roared, asking why I'd been targeted. I was just a measly foundation establishment nobody. Because my breakthroughs were too fast, my talent too extraordinary. I wanted to explain, but I had no strength to do so. This damned cultivation world had done me in. The sect leader sneered, saying Changzi protected me so fiercely. I must be important to him. I felt my strength draining bit by bit, my soul being torn apart. Even the system was powerless, screaming in despair. This couldn't go on. The sect leader's greedy eyes fixed on me. He said he'd see if I were the manual mattered more. I rolled my eyes, cursing inwardly. He should have said so earlier. It hurt like hell. I whispered to the system, if I got out, could it get me home? The system hurriedly agreed, absolutely. I trusted the system to deliver. I pulled out the yellow booklet. Clearing my throat, I shouted, was this the manual he meant? The sect leader's murky eyes studied the booklet. After a long moment, he confirmed. It was indeed the one. He hadn't expected Changzi to value me so much, to give me such a precious secret. The sect leader was pleased. Dispelling the formation, he spat a mouthful of blood, grabbing the booklet, saying I was wise. With this, he wouldn't need to practice body-damaging demonic arts. He promised me a complete corpse. I thanked him sarcastically. The sect leader laughed heartily. Opening the manual, he loudly declared that to practice this art, one must first castrate oneself. I was shocked. I hadn't realized the book I'd swapped in was something like that. If I survived today, I'd have to read it someday. The work of my savior. Truly an unexpected delight. The sect leader's voice paused, still reeling from shock. The manual was real. He drew his sword, closing his eyes. At that moment, Changzi and Xiaoning's voices called out together, Liuer. I remarked they'd come at a bad time. The sect leader lowered his sword, saying their arrival was perfect. They could test if the manual was genuine. A massive wave of spiritual pressure swept over. The force of a tribulation stage cultivator. I could barely breathe under it. The sect leader brandished his sword, eyeing their groins menacingly. I cursed inwardly. This wasn't good idea. Fail them, especially Demon Lord Xiangyang. But I wasn't the one who dug up his ancestral graves. As the sect leader's sword thrust forward, some unknown strength broke the spiritual pressure. I rushed toward Changzi. The sword pierced my body. With the system's help, I felt no pain at all. I pulled out the teleportation talisman, slapping them onto both of them. Then, I took the Dark Abyss conversion talisman from the Cerner, turned it into a self-destruct talisman and slapped it on myself. Damn it, daring to force me. I'd use his demonic power to blow him to bits the full. In the instant before the explosion, I saw Changzi's usually calm expression turn to panic. Xiangyang was crying like a wreck. As they were teleported away, the talisman ignited. The sect leader and I were blasted apart. What a pity! He only lost his soul, while I lost my entire body. Outside, the sun shone brightly. A group of cultivators flew in the sky. I sat up. As expected, I hadn't died. The little Serna by my bedside chirped excitedly, calling me master, saying I'd finally woken. It had gone to hone its skills after angering me, and had improved. The system Giltridin mumbled that it had malfunctioned and fled. This time I wasn't angry. Instead, I felt a bit relieved. After waking, my body brimmed with power, light and agile, my spiritual energy uncontainable. The feeling of surviving a calamity was pleasant. I tested my cultivation. It had leapt from spirit transformation to late tribulation. The demonic markings on my wrist had vanished, and I remembered everything. I wasn't a simple transmigrator. There was no original host. My soul had died in a siege. A fragment of it drifted to another world, where I lived for years. I wasn't Changzi's carefully chosen disciple, but the demon emperor Kang Liu, born with an immortal body. My demonic power too overwhelming, coupled with the soul-destroying Great Swona's might. The three realms feared me. All sought to destroy me, though I'd never done anything wrong. Back then, Xiangyang was just my childhood lackey, all bark and no bite, always acting like the boss. As for Changzi, he was a demon hunter, too weak to fight me. I tied him up in my chambers and interrogated him for 3 days and nights. He claimed had fallen for me. I didn't believe him. He was clearly outmatched. Later, the immortal and demon realms joined forces to scatter my soul, leaving only a fragment to cultivate back into human form, which Changzi took in. Xiangyang, now a demon lord, sensed my return, mistaking Changzi for turning me against the demons. He hated him to the core and tried to use me to kill him. Understanding it all, I let out a long sigh. What a bunch of troublesome fools! Xiangyang huffed in grievance. It wasn't about being troublesome. Changzi stole his sister. He deserved to be torn apart. I told him to get lost. He was too scared to even face Changzi. Xiangyang choked on his words. Changzi pulled me close, saying he'd long despised the immortal sect and wanted to purge the cultivation world. Purge the cultivation world. I admired his confidence. I looked at the man, now an immortal venerable, who had waited for me for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. And still so weak, but no matter. I didn't mind. Cultivation could come slowly. The system gave an awkward laugh, urging me that Xiangyang had left, saying he'd wander the world, too tired to watch us flaunt our affection. I wasn't sure how to respond, grinning as I stared at Changzi, until his face flushed red. So had he fallen for me long ago? Admit it, or was he denying it? Today I'd show him my true power. I admitted in his evasive yet expectant gaze. I pulled out a small whip. Would he still hide his ABS from me now? Kick me out, huh? Had seen me 1,000 years ago. His tone flat. He called me a wicked disciple, saying I was still taking advantage of him. I told him to stop calling me a wicked disciple. Call me Demon Emperor. Got it. The me from 1,000 years ago had seen him. What did that have to do with the me now? Changzi suddenly interrupted, calling me his wicked disciple, his face serious. I stopped tilting my head, asking what. Sunlight fell on his face. Changzi, blushing, spoke softly, proposing we become Tao companions. What we weren't already.